All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club, and happy Wednesday, everybody. This is the solo episode that we record on Wednesdays. I want to bring you guys that hump day energy. So I hope you're having a good day. I hope your week is going well. It's going to be a good week for a second reason, because we have Chris Long with us on the podcast from Long Yards Storage. Chris does outdoor storage yards. This is a unique asset class, and we have not talked about it yet on the podcast. So I am super excited to jump into this. Chris, thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Excited to be here, Gabe.
Absolutely. I told you before we got on here, we always like starting with stories and hearing how people got to where they are. So why don't you take us to the beginning of your story in real estate and tell us how'd you get started?
Yeah, cool. So I don't know where the actual beginning of real estate was. There was a light bulb, but very young. I was like, I love passive income and I love real estate. I think it was like 8. I don't know like how it happened, but in
Wow,
any
you're
case,
an early
yeah,
starter. I love it.
the seed started early. I think because I worked too hard for everything. I was like, I got to figure out a way how to not work so hard. And anyways, grew up on the farm, kind of like old school
Ah,
work ethic, and then just basically ended up going to the city and got into just hustling, selling chalk bars young, and then immediately it's like, okay, I need to, level up here. And got into carpentry, funny enough, got my ticket as a carpenter, and then got into real estate immediately. Bought my first house, bootstrapped it, turned it into a duplex, bought the second house, did the same thing. And then I wanted to get into storage. I bought a commercial property and then I bought a property near that. So I was like, doing pretty good. And a few things happened at the same time that really made me merge into this asset class, which I'm excited to talk about. Was one of them was I had tools and equipment and trailers that really had nowhere to go. And I was
mm,
like, there's a bit of a gap in the marketplace. And anyone listening, if you just go on LoopNet or Crexy and you search for a yard from 2,000, 20,000 square feet, you can't really find it. It's like a niche in the marketplace. So that I was like, it was kind of like an aha moment. And then the second pain points I was realizing in tenant laws in Canada. I'm not sure if any you have investors in Canada, or some states are worse than others, but they had all the rights. I had a tenant didn't pay for a year, and they could just control the show. And then you have to go to landlord tenant board. Anyways, that being mixed with the opportunity, I was like, you know what? I'm going all in. I sold both my rental units because I was trying to get investors. And I'm like, hey, invest in a storage yard. They're like, you're crazy. I've never heard of that. I'm not going to do that with you because I don't think it's going to work. So I'm like, oh, if I believe in it enough, I'm going to sell everything I have and go all in. Sure enough, that's what I did. Within a short period of time, we were fully leased up. It was a success. So now I'm building out in Central Florida, and we have 10 locations that are actually coming under the Long Yards brand throughout the states. So we're just excited to be here, talk about our journey, and share what I've learned.
nice, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe in something strong enough, there's nothing that can stop you, especially if the idea of outdoor storage is not a common investment that people think about investing in when they're in real estate. But there's definitely opportunity there for sure. So why don't you tell us, like, why outdoor storage? What kind of brought you to that specific asset class? And then what do you like about it?
Right. So why outside storage? Because I needed it myself. I was a contractor. I had 4 trailers, tools, equipment. Every time the wife had
Mm,
family coming over or whatnot, we had to clean up. And I was like, okay. So I knew the need was so strong being in the industry of a builder myself. So that it
mm,
just made sense based on the skill set I had, especially being a developer and a builder, to go into an asset class that I understood on an intimate level. So that's why I chose iOS. And then, I mean, yeah, just going all into it after that point. And yeah, I mean, that's why I went all
yeah,
in.
no, makes sense. So, I mean, I don't know much about outdoor storage. To me, it seems extremely simple to build.
Yeah.
So I feel like if there is a gap in a marketplace, then it would be filled virtually instantaneously, because what do you need? Just a fence and some lighting.
And that's the crazy
Um,
part. The business is simple, but it's not easy, right?
okay,
So,
okay,
like I said, what was the just building it out? What do I love most about it is my gate is my number one employee. All
yeah,
right.
exactly,
I ran a
yeah,
construction company. I had 12 employees, project managers, and I'm dealing with architects, engineers, whole bunch of stuff. And then I go to the self-storage business with storage yards. And if someone doesn't pay, going to my pain points, like now I'm in control. I own their stuff, and my software, because it's so automated, just locks them out. So I'm like, okay, it's beautiful. Now that's the simple, great part that I love so much. The hard part is industrial real estate and taking finding great opportunities in great markets. But anyways, that's what I love about it.
Yeah. Um, but going back to, I guess what I'm kind of hung on is why is there an opportunity here? Because in my mind, it is the barrier to entry is so low. And so if there really was a supply demand imbalance, I feel like it would be almost overnight it would be filled. So from your perspective, why do you think that there is it just a change in how the economy is running, or why do you think there's an opportunity here right now in 2024?
Well, it's funny because the barrier to entry is it looks low because it's a self-storage yard and it's like fencing, but it's actually the challenge and what makes it so difficult is the industrial land that the yard is required to be on.
It's the zoning. Got it.
It's
Okay.
the zoning, it's the entitlement. It's the city doesn't like these type of properties. You have to find either existing run or you have to create the opportunities. So it's not really easy for a competitor to pop up beside you because also think of a heat map of most industrial properties are where airports are or certain pockets of the city that allow this type of infrastructure. So you have to kind of monopolize these areas quickly to really secure your spot. And then once you're up and running, does someone want to be up and running right across the street? So the barrier to entry is it looks simple, but some of these pieces of land are $500,000 an acre.
Mm.
So you got to be at 2.5, you're in $3.5 million on a 5 acre property in a desirable area to put up a contract storage yard. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't call that a low barrier to entry. It's a bit of a capital and a little bit of risk factor because it's a bit of an unknown asset. People get iOS, but the way we're doing it is different as well. So, like I said, it looks simple, but it's not easy. And then there is a barrier to entry, and it really is the land.
Yeah. So the barrier to entry is the price. Have you
Surprisingly.
tried? I mean, obviously, there's a ton of land out there. Have you tried rezoning land?
So we're working on three different acquisition systems. There's on market, there's off market, and there's future land use.
Mm.
So we do entertain all three. And the best thing about long yards as a franchisor, because that's what we got approved by SBA. So we could take down these industrial land parcels and do the build out for only 10% down, which is really unique and makes it a little bit more affordable to enter the market.
So you just mentioned that you're a franchisor. So you guys have franchised this model?
Yes, so we have franchisees around 8 at this point in time.
Interesting. Take us through that. How did you? I haven't had somebody on the show that started the franchise with their model. Um,
Yeah,
Tell us about it. Like, how'd you start it up? How's it been going?
yeah, I think it's going great. It's a bit newer, so because like I merged two worlds. I have the real estate investing where you buy an asset class, add an NOI, make it worth the future market value, and then you can refinance or whatnot. But we have a business side that we could play as well. We can lease land or joint venture with landowners, and then the franchisee gets a loan from SBA, and it's like land arbitrage. So
Hmm.
long yards is very unique where we're not very capital intensive. Where a self storage facility, you got to build an entire building, you sometimes got to go vertical to make it work. Us in 6 to 8 weeks, we could be up and running and built out and cash flowing.
Hmm.
So it's just a different game to play. And that's where I decided, I have different tools at my arsenal, and the franchising makes great for speed to market, for leasing, but I can still do corporately on the real estate side. So it just gives a little more tools than our toolkit.
Yeah, makes sense. Um, so I would suppose that I mean, like all real estate, the where you put the property matters. I mean, it is the most important thing is location. So what are you doing and where are you finding the opportunities? What do you do when you look for either land has yet to be developed that you want to buy or these assets that already exist? Like what markets, what are the metrics you're looking for, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we go through like a whole feasibility tool of like multiple point checklists. And one of the funny things is I try to stay away from the snow because funny enough, the snow is my biggest expense. Not to say we're shy,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
but you know what I mean? It's like we have low capex, low employees, low insurance. So like our business is low to begin with. So I'll add a bonus and I'll stay away from the snow just to keep it as profitable as possible. But we'll look at anywhere. And then it's funny, it's really strict on the zoning. Maybe we have a detailed buy box that any partners get introduced to. There's a few high level things like, you want to be close to the core if you can, good traffic, good exposure. If you new build permits, and you're kind of going, you can either be where the city's seasoned or you could be go where the city's growing to. So
Hmm.
that could change. And then again, the zoning is very specific, but then the local building requirements. And these are a few things you want to find out immediately before you go too far down to a venture. And then once we have a property, then it's all the data points around it. How strict are the HOAs? How many small business avatars are actually
Are
within
the
a
HOAs? Why would that matter? Why do you care
well,
about the
because
HOAs?
HOAs are strict on what you can and can't do on your property. So if you can't have a trailer or if you can't have boats and RVs or equipment, then they have a lot of rules and restrictions, which makes it more desirable for iOS.
Oh, I see. I see. So if all the surrounding developments prohibit people from keeping their boat or whatever on their property, then that's an opportunity because they need a place to put that. And so you're looking to
Exactly.
build out the land. Interesting. Is there like an easy, nothing's easy, but is there a consolidated way to do that type of search, or do you literally go to each development, look at the HOA rules, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so there's kind of like the high level tools that we look at, does the zoning, the size, the price, and we built an underwriting feasibility tool. Once it checks those boxes, then we go to the next layer of underwriting, and this is pre-consulting with engineering, HOAs, all these other granular data points. So, it's a phase. We call it an acquisition assembly line, and it
Mm,
goes through a life cycle because
mm,
there's just so many little nuances that we've had to build because it's such a scarce asset class and such a unique model that we've had to customize our entire process of underwriting.
nice. So talking about the zoning, are you only looking for just general industrial, or are there like sub zoning, I don't know what you would call them, but like
Yeah.
specific zones that within the industrial category that you need, or is it just general industrial?
No, for sure. It's kind of funny. Like, let's look at Florida as Jacksonville. So most heavy light industrials work, and ideally, the heavier the zoning, the less stringent, or the more flexible that the county and the zoning will be, or the building requirements, because it's just a heavier asset class, heavier zoning.
Mm,
But there are some commercials, and there's specific zoning codes that you have to get the database for that will allow outside storage. And then you can also change in some cases the zoning from one to another. It's just what do the local building report, what does local building code requirements seek in order for you to do that, and then is it feasible? So ideally, it's like heavy light industrial, but there is a funnel that you can go through, and then it becomes, well, is it worth it in this area to invest that time and that capital?
yeah. So managing does sound easy. Is there something that I'm not seeing that would make it hard, or tell me, how do you manage the properties once you build them or you buy them and you get them up and running? What are the steps that wouldn't be apparent to somebody just looking from the outside in?
It's a unique model to begin with. I mean, you have less tenants, but you could have 3 to 5 tenants that give you as much work as the rest, which is kind of like traditional in a lot of businesses, I suppose. So the management is just keeping a good eye
And
on.
sorry, real quick, you say less tenants, but fewer tenants. But I feel like, if you have a 10-acre parcel, 2 acre, I don't know, however large your parcel is, there's a lot of spaces. I mean, I can see 200 plus on a large parcel. Is that, do
I
people
guess my
generally
comparison,
rent
I guess,
out by acre or by size, or how are you parceling out? No pun intended.
yeah,
The parcel.
yeah. So on my first facility in Canada, it's 10 acres and there's 67 yards. So I suppose when I say less tenants, I'm comparing it to what most people understand self-storage. Where on a 10 acre facade, 10-acre lot, you'd have maybe, who knows, like 200, 300 self-storage units, but I have 67. And they are parceled yards. It's funny. My first lot is very simple. It is quite literally a long yard, 200 feet by 2,000 feet. And we have different size yards on different sizes. So they are parceled individually. And
And
that's,
is it just gravel, or how are you distinguishing these yards? Do you put a fence around the individual yards, or how does it look from the
yeah.
outside?
I mean, it's a graveled yard with a fence around it. So we have 67 mini fenced in parcels. So
Got
that
it. Okay.
completely enclosed
Yep.
with fencing, and they can have a camera, power if they need it in an office or a container in their yard. So
Mm,
that's
mm.
basically, it's like a little mini laydown yard is the best way to summarize it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I was just envisioning one massive fence around 10 acres and that's it. And so
Yeah.
people just start parking stuff in there and you're like, I have no idea how much you got in there or what.
Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense. So you parcel out the parcel. Um, based on however large you want it to be. Is there, what is the size? Let's just use 10 acres because that, that's a nice round number. Um, or actually 1 acre. Let's use 1 acre. How many yards are you putting in a 1 acre space?
1 acre is kind of like tough because there's a bit of a feasibility approach where you want the numbers to pencil and to make sense for just everything. 1 acre is kind of small. We could get away from maybe 8 to 12 smaller yards on a 1 acre parcel. Not to say it can't be done. It's
So let's
just
just say, so it's 10 acres per parcel on average is about, or sorry, 10 yards per acre on average.
roughly, it really depends on a lot of factors because the bigger locations, you could have bigger yards, and but the smaller ones, I'd cut them up into smaller so that I have more. So there's a bit of a formula approach for each size. It's not really as black and white. It's and sometimes you can have it. And here's the beautiful thing about long yards: if there's an oddly shaped property with only electricity going to it, then nobody like what do I do with this? It's perfect for a long yards. If
Yeah,
anyone is looking at land like that and you want to get involved with long yards, bring it our way. Let's make a deal happen.
that's interesting. I actually had one of those in what's that? Asheville, North Carolina. It was
Yep.
downtown Asheville, zoned industrial.
Oh, wow.
Weird ass shape, and I had no idea what to do with it. I got it for a steal of the price, but I ended up not buying it because I was like, I don't know what to do with this. So maybe I should have sent it to you.
Yep.
So the rent per yard, what are you looking at per month?
It really factors into the area, right? That's such a
Yeah.
nuanced question. In Seattle, you're going to get a different rate than Florida. So we got to run comps in the marketplace, and it's
Let's
a
just
mix.
let's use just major metros. So like DFW, Seattle, Miami. What are you looking at?
Oh, God, Miami versus DFW. DFW right now, we're looking at around 30 cents net rentable per square foot. But Miami, you're
Oh, it's
looking at
by per square foot.
per
Interesting.
square
Okay.
foot per month.
Right.
And then in Miami, I mean, you could be like $2 a square foot a
No
month.
shit. Wow.
It's
That's crazy.
insane. And the funny thing is there's no metric that follows the price of industrial real estate per acre versus how much you can make per square foot per acre. Like
Yeah.
it's such a wild, wild west,
Huh.
but it's a big gap in a lot of markets.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, this is has been an interesting conversation. You might make me want to buy some outdoor industrial. We have run through our time though, so it's time to jump into the quick question round. Are you ready?
Do it.
Let's do it. Starts with education, could be any form, could be books, movies, Netflix shows, whatever. Just give me two recommendations, one for general life wisdom and then one for real estate.
Ooh, I would say, The Game by Alex Hermosi. That's just great for
Oh
general
yeah,
life
Alex,
and
he has
business.
good content.
Oh yeah, he's a G. And then I would say podcasts. Geez, what am I listening to lately? God, I don't even know. I'm all over the place. I couldn't even answer. I just go with the game. I double down on the first one.
That's fair enough. All right. Next question is to your younger self. Let's go back to the Chris who was still up there in Canada. He was buying that first duplex or whatever it was that he bought that first time. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Get into commercial real estate quicker and say no faster to distractions.
Good advice. I'm going to put that in the I wish I started sooner category. We kind of have a running tally on the show here, and I think about 90% of the investors that come on the show all say they wish they started sooner. So every time that happens, I'm putting a message out there to you listening to this podcast. If you are listening and you haven't started yet, this is your message. Go out there, get started. It doesn't matter what you do, just get a deal done, and you will 10 years down the road, you're going to be like Chris and be like, I wish I started sooner. So there you go. That leads us to the next question. This is about the US. It is a massive place. There's so much opportunity out there. Give me the single metro you're most excited about investing in today.
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, Florida. Good one. All right. Next one is about finding deals. It all starts with getting in contact with the seller and penning up that purchase agreement. So, what is your favorite way to generate leads and find new deals?
Right. Honestly, it's been podcasting. I just got a lot of lead flow from jumping on podcasts like this. And then the second one would be like direct outbound mailers, right to
Okay.
the owner.
Yeah. Mailers are tried and true for sure. What I love about mailers, they're expensive, but you'll send a mailer and then like 6 months later, somebody will call from a mailer that you sent 6 months ago and be like, "Hey, I had this mailer and I decided now's the time to sell." And you're like, "Hell yeah, let's do this." So mailers are definitely a good way to go. All right, last question or second to last question is about lessons learned. Not every deal that we get into goes the way that we expect it. In fact, most of the time, a wrench is thrown into the mix, and we get to learn a lesson. So, what was a deal that went a little bit sideways for you, and then what was the lesson you pulled from it?
Oh man, it's just getting creative, getting creative. So the first long yards I built, I didn't have enough money to finish it. So I
Mm,
had to pre-sell my yards for the year with a discount just to afford to put the gates on. So
mm,
it's just that creative thinking that when, the why is strong enough, you'll figure out the how.
yeah,
So I think the wrenches that were thrown at me, it's like capital restraints, but then it goes back to that creative, like you're not going to know A to Z when you get into it. You're going to know A, B, and C, but you got to figure out the alphabet and you got to keep marching. And it just takes creativity, but perseverance as well. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. That is, I feel like that is the key to real estate is just solving the problems as they come. Get started. You have the general idea of what you're doing. You're buying long yards. You're buying self storage facilities, mobile home parks. You go out there, you buy the property, and then you just start solving problems. And if you can do that time and time again, you're going to be successful. So that leads us to the very last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you? And then what can they expect when they reach out?
Yeah. So you can find us, just go to longyards.com. And then when you reach out there, there's different tabs if you're interested in franchising or investing or just learning more or even being part of the team. You can fill out some forms in one of the tabs and just we can learn more about you. And you can also email me directly at clong@longyards.com.
Perfect. I will put that link in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out, just click a little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description, and in there you can find Chris's link. All right, man. That wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Thanks, Gabe.
Absolutely. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to me, Gabe at the realestateinvestingclub.com. If you want to support the show, just give us a review on Apple or whatever you're listening to this on. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.